Welcome to Whidbey Island. I'm Jen. Whidbey Island is home to several Washington state parks. Now, these parks are varied. We have beaches and old-growth forests with trees over 500 years old. And we have miles and miles of trails which are a hoot to explore. And we have historic structures that we take care of, like Fort Casey's batteries, which are undergoing some restorations right now. It takes a lot of work to maintain these parks and find a balance between being good stewards of Washington's natural, historical, and cultural places and still maintain visitor access and enjoyment of those places. It takes a lot of planning, so there's a few tools that we have to help us guide our decision-making process.
So this is our ArcGIS, or Geographic Information Systems map that we use. And it helps us with a lot of things. You can see park boundaries across the state. We're going to zoom into some parks here on Whidbey Island. I'm going to start with Fort Eby because it has a good overview of how we decide what happens where in a park. So Fort Eby is known for its trails, so I'm going to pop the trails onto the map there. And then each park has what's known as a classification and management plan, or camp plan. And that classifies what can happen in each area. So I'm going to turn on those classification zones and open the legend so we can see what those classifications are. And as you can see, there's several different options going on here at Fort Eby. The fort, of course, has historic structures still remaining. That's what that little yellow spot is. These kind of purple areas are the more heavily used areas of the park. That's where campgrounds are, parking lots, access to the beach, picnic areas, the park office, that kind of thing are all located in those heavier use areas. Then this light blue area that takes up a good chunk of the park and where those trails, most of those trails are located, is our resource recreation. So it's that balance between allowing people access, but still maintaining that forest that those trails are going through. And then the orange areas, you notice all along the beach there and some into this forest, are natural areas. So those are where we want to keep, more preserved and in a natural state than we would the other areas of the park. So that's why probably this area in the orange won't see any more trail development. And then, but perhaps in the future, we might lay another trail somewhere in this blue area, depending on the needs of the park later on in the future. Let's go to another park and see how it's set up. We'll go to Fort Casey. And you'll notice it has a much larger heritage area. And that's because this area has many more structures on it. It's been heavily altered by people in the past, both with the fort and there's a lighthouse up in this corner. So this section is all about the historic preservation. And then we have this long strip of orange here for natural preservation. And that is just a strip of land called a spit between the bay and then this lake here. And that's just a nice buffer between the road, that's that skinny little section there. And then another of the light blue resource recreation, so people have access to the beach. And then this purple area here, again, is that heavier use. That's where our parking lot and there's a boat launch. This right here is actually the Coopville to Port Townsend ferry terminal. So there's a lot going on here too, but since there's more historic stuff, the balance is for historic. And then we have the tidelands here that we also preserve. And one other park here is going to introduce us to another of the resource categories. And this is South Whidbey State Park, of course, further south on the island. And you'll notice we have that natural zone along the beach and tidelands area. We have some trails, not a lot. We have a few of those dark purple, heavier use areas. This is where the main parking lots are. And these dots up at the top there are where the old campground is. And then the rest of it, it's kind of hard to tell since we're looking at trees, but is that green natural forest area. This is an old growth forest in this area, so we want to preserve that forest as long as possible. And so there's a little tiny bit of access, but we probably will never ever add more trails to this park. It'll remain for those 500-year-old trees to live out their full life cycles. So 6, 7, 800 years or even 1,000 years. And that will allow those trees to live in peace without too much human inclusion.
Now that you've had a peek at how Washington State Parks finds balance between access and stewardship, how would you design your own park if you had a chance?